Hi, welcome beautiful Americans. How are you?
I was a master chef, flown 3,000 miles to fix a disaster at a luxury hotel. My payment, the promise of my dream job location anywhere in the world. I fixed their chaos, saved their dinner service for 750 guests every night, and asked for my reward. Their response: "You're too valuable. You're staying here forever." They thought I was trapped. They thought they could betray me. They didn't realize that in a kitchen, the chef controls the ingredients. And my final ingredient was pure, unadulterated chaos. If you've ever been overworked, underestimated, and seen a handshake deal thrown back in your face, hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready for the most satisfying revenge served piping hot, right before dinner service. I spent years honing my craft, becoming a sought-after chef for a famous high-end, all-inclusive hotel chain. This was a prestigious career, but it came with demands. One day, I was pulled out of my comfortable routine. My manager walked into my bustling kitchen. The sounds of sizzling oil and clanging steel suddenly hushed, and told me I had to pack my bags. "You need to move 3,000 miles away," he said. There was a critical labor issue at another location, a kitchen in crisis that was threatening the hotel's reputation. This was a massive ask, a sudden uprooting of my life. But I saw an opportunity. I happily obliged, but I negotiated my terms. If I successfully fixed the issue and stabilized the kitchen, I would get my choice of any hotel location in the entire chain. I shook his hand on it. That promise, the chance to finally work at my dream location, was the only reason I got on that plane. I arrived at the new hotel and found absolute chaos. The labor issue was deeper and more toxic than anyone let on. But I'm a professional. I put my head down, working endless hours to mediate, restructure, and mentor. I didn't just fix the staff problem. I immediately took over the entire dinner service, consistently cooking for 750 demanding guests a night. After a grueling few months, I did it. The staff issues were settled, the morale was high, and the kitchen was running as smoothly as a Swiss clock. I felt the surge of professional pride. I did what I said I would do. The time had come to collect. I approached my manager, polite but firm. "The kitchen is stable. When can I make the move to the European resort, per our agreement?" My manager shifted uncomfortably. He averted his gaze, fiddling with a pen. Then came the betrayal. "Well, protagonist name, since you've done such a good job, we're going to have to keep you here for the foreseeable future." Indeterminate, really. Indeterminate, meaning forever. The air around me felt suddenly cold. The noise of the kitchen faded out. They saw my success, not as a contract fulfilled, but as a resource to be exploited. I was no longer a valued employee. I was a glorified fire extinguisher they wanted to leave on the wall. The raw disrespect fueled a sharp, white-hot fury in my chest. They thought I was a tool they could simply command. I didn't shout. I stood tall, meeting his weak gaze. "This is unacceptable," I stated, my voice low and dangerous. I demanded to be transferred in accordance with the original agreement that got me on a plane in the first place. He started with the corporate doublespeak. "We will work on it. We need to discuss it with head office." I gave them a window, a generous 3-week window to hash out the details, to communicate with corporate, and to honor the promise. I was giving them every chance to save themselves. My final words before walking away were deliberate and calm. "If that transfer doesn't come through in 3 weeks, I will walk off the job and never look back." For 3 weeks, the kitchen ran flawlessly. For 3 weeks, I waited for an email, a phone call, or a single meaningful gesture. Nothing came. They called my bluff. They were arrogant enough to believe my dedication to the craft outweighed my self-respect. The 3 weeks passed quietly. On the morning of the 21st day, I asked my manager one last polite question. "Has my transfer come through, or is it still being worked on?" He shook his head, looking mildly annoyed. "No progress, chef. Just hang tight." Hang tight. That was all I needed to hear. I went straight to my entire dinner staff, the same team I had mentored and saved. I looked them in the eyes, told them to take the day off, and warned them not to answer any work calls. They were loyal to me, not the management. They were gone by lunchtime. Then I began the charade. This was the performance of a lifetime. I set the kitchen up as if I were about to prepare the most massive, complex dinner service of the season. I filled massive hotel pans with water, adding chopped onions and herbs, and covered them tightly with foil. From a distance, they looked like elaborate stocks or braises. I carefully arranged expensive cuts of meat out on cutting boards, covered them and walked away. The final brilliant touch. I put olive oil and chopped garlic in a dozen pans and set the heat just high enough to produce a gentle, alluring sizzle and fill the entire kitchen with a scent of an impending glorious feast. I kept the act up until 4:30 p.m. The dining hall opened at 5 p.m. The prep area smelled incredible. Everything looked ready. Everything looked fine. At 4:30 p.m. I shed my chef whites, went to my room, picked up my bags and headed to the lobby. My ride was waiting. Just as I reached the door, the manager came running out of his office. His face a sickening shade of white. He had just realized the horrifying truth. 750 prepaid dinner reservations and no food. He cornered me in the lobby. "If you walk out right now," he hissed, frantic, "you will never work for this company again." I looked at the terrified man, the face of the corporate betrayal. I gave him the warmest, most genuine smile I could muster. I extended my hand. I saw the question in his eyes. "Are you going to stay?" I took his hand firmly, shook it once, and said the words he knew would haunt him. "Goodbye." I turned, walked out the door and got into the waiting car. I watched in the rearview mirror as the manager stood frozen in the pristine lobby, realizing the catastrophic hell he had just inherited. I never looked back. That was 20+ years ago. They thought my talent gave them leverage. I showed them that my talent and my loyalty were conditional. They tried to break a handshake deal, and in return I broke their dinner service. You can replace a chef, but you can't replace dinner for 750 people an hour before service. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell us in the comments. What's the most satisfying time you saw corporate arrogance get burned? And of course, subscribe to English Stories with Louisa for more satisfying acts of professional karma.